Today's focus is an earnings preview for quarter 3 for Tesla. We believe that stock price is going to be up nicely, someplace in that 10% range after these earnings, and that's what we focus on today. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. Your support on a regular basis allows us to actually exist as a show, and it's greatly appreciated. We also want to encourage you to like and subscribe if you enjoy the show. Now, today's show is sort of broken into two parts. The first part is we review a number of reasons why it's our belief that Tesla has some terrific news that's driving what's going on with the stock currently. The second half of the show, we actually focus on some Tesla challenges, and I wanted to highlight that we're big-time supporters of Tesla's success and are enjoying that, and the fact that we cover stuff that may not be 100% flattering is a sign of complete information, not that of the fact that we don't appreciate what the company is doing or its prospects, or et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to preview you with this right now. So the first part of what I wanted to, whenever there's analysts and they review a company, there are a number of things that they do to address what's going to happen with the stock price short and long term. The first item is to figure out, how did the quarter go? What were all the numbers? Were those numbers good or bad? The second part of what they do is figure out, okay, we have our numbers currently. What do things look like going down the road? And so that's basically how our show is broken up. So the first part of what we're looking at is Goldman Sachs did an upgrade based on the fact that they had acquired the software startups numbers for Tesla vehicles. And so that was the first bump for the stock price that we saw. Then what happened was those numbers were fairly confirmed in terms of what we saw coming in for the real numbers that Tesla reported when it came to sales and earnings, or sales at least. We don't know what the earnings are yet. So, I think that confirmation was good news for a lot of people. And so we just had the fact that a number of folks actually upgraded the stock heading into earnings. And we expected that to happen the latter half of this week, which is what occurred. And so everything is sort of in line to deliver a good story for Tesla and a good outcome. And so we think this is great. There are other, I think, important new developments that have happened for the company that we consider actually to be big and important. Among those are, number one, with all the fires going on, the Powerwall prices have been raised because there are a large number of people that have now chosen to go for Powerwalls. And we'd actually expect that the solar installations have started accelerating as well, so that people can have power during times when things like PG&E does shutoffs. So another positive that you have to look at. The next thing that we have to look at is a confirmation that the production of China has gotten large enough to meet demand of China and start the export process out of China from there. We also wanted to review the fact that Tesla has been upgraded by S&P to, I believe, a BBB when it comes to its debt rating. So it lowers the cost of financing for Tesla. And I also think that this is another feather in the cap of the company. The upgrade of rating BBB, I think, is reflective of the fact that they did that $5 billion raise successfully by selling more shares. And that cash sitting on the balance sheet right now, along with the cash coming in from sales, really strengthens the overall look of the company. Because even if you're spending some of that money to grow or in different ways, you definitely have a better overall balance sheet. The more cash, the merrier in that regard. So, as you can see, large number of good basic ideas that lurk out there that are supportive of Tesla's success in the current quarter and then short term heading over the next few months in general. And I think all of that contributes to, in a tough economic environment where others are having a tough time selling product and being efficient, it's awesome to see Tesla deliver in that space. So we think this is terrific. So at this point in the show, we sort of take a lens away from, hey, how are things looking in the current quarter, which we think is excellent, and let's look into the coming quarter and issues that might be on the horizon. For us, I would say number one on the list is we've already reviewed numerous times the fact that we have a problem coming in terms of the number of vehicles being produced in China, and then after those vehicles are being produced, what's happening afterwards. And the answer we're coming up with is that there's excellent both production and growth in production from the Shanghai facility, which I think is good. The fact now that Tesla has started exporting those vehicles out of China, we've discussed the fact that this is a sign of the fact that they have right now perhaps too much production coming out of that facility, and instead of slowing it down dramatically, they've made a decision to go ahead and start exporting. And so I think it's good that they're exporting. I think it's good that other markets are getting those vehicles. The hope is that kind of what's going on with Chinese demand when we were expecting that number to be huge. And this is one of the areas where there's a fly in the ointment, because the question that comes up is, well, wait a second, if they don't have the Model Y, will Tesla be challenged over the next couple of quarters to show strong growth that validates its current stock price? And so we think that this is one of the question marks that hangs over the company. And once the euphoria hits of, hey, we got great numbers, we've got good revenue, we're profitable, how does Elon respond to the questions related to demand, particularly when we look at China and particularly when the Model Y has not arrived yet? So that's the first in the sort of question mark in terms of what's happening. The second question mark, I want to call it the burn rate. So right now, Tesla has an interesting situation. We got good cash on the balance sheet from the money that was raised. The question mark is what's going on with the cash drains, i.e. projects that Elon is doing that represent solid components of the future, but there's no revenue yet to go with those efforts. So that's the Semi, that's the Roadster, that's the Cybertruck facility that's being built. There's spending there, but there's no revenue. Same thing in Germany. So, and then finally, we have the issue of the battery, the new battery plant that's being built and the capital it's taking to build out that facility, and it's not generating revenue yet. So one of the hanging questions is the burn rate on a number of projects that are sitting out there that are at the inception phase. They may have deposits or they may not, but in essence, they're sitting out there consuming cash on a regular basis, but they're not generating any revenue. So the list that I just gave you illustrates a long list of kind of, hey, what's going on with these items, and do we get better news going forward that represents where we're headed. There's a final sort of two question marks that is going on, which is, as usual, Tesla is a large enough market cap company that for several days after earnings, we're going to get a nice push on the stock price. I think up, but theoretically it could be down. But Tesla is able to create its own wave by what happens with these earnings, much as Amazon will when they come out. And so one of the question marks that's happening right now is what happens with the pandemic. So what I mean by that is that if you watch Tesla's stock price, when we don't have a major news item, be it earnings or delivery of vehicles or analyst upgrades, some of these different issues or new products, you basically have a situation where you're in kind of a, we don't know what's going to happen here, let's figure it out zone. And so I was, I was kind of fascinated because sort of challenge that we're lurking on right now is, how is the pandemic going to impact what Tesla's doing? So clearly, China is number one in terms of our destination for vehicles for Teslas right now, perhaps US number two and Europe number three, with Europe choosing to go to lockdown again in many countries. How does this impact the ability to move cars while we return to this lockdown again? So we could validly see a way in which issues with the pandemic starts to leak back into a more difficult environment for Tesla to deliver cars. We're also starting to see a third wave in the United States, where there are large numbers of people that are getting COVID issues, and therefore it's affecting the aggressiveness of many sort of states and municipalities in shutting down as well. And this also could affect Tesla. So there's some issues that are lurking there, but most of the issues are definitely after the quarter. So I think if you balance it out, the positives of the backlog that we don't know what it is yet lurks, but we also have some, well, what's going to happen here that we don't know yet relative to Tesla heading into the future. And these are some of the things that we're going to be finding out about, either directly by it being stated or indirectly, because Elon will be quizzed on this, because you do have to deal with a grade for the short term, i.e. what happened this quarter through the current quarter, and then the B section of what does the future look like. And the answer is there's a lot of backlog for products, but the biggest backlog we can think of is the Cybertruck, and the factory won't be done for another 9 months. So therefore, you don't get a chance for all that revenue to hit the balance sheet right away and have a really nice positive impact. I would say that, there are some answers that could pop up out there that are valid. For example, if China does in fact become 100% domestically produced for their product relative to Tesla, you're able to source lower costs. So one of the things that might pop up is that you could have perhaps a declining price per vehicle while you have an increasing margin per vehicle. But Elon has sort of stated that he also is really inclined to bake any heavy reduction in costs into lower prices, because that by default increases sales. So I think it's a valid process that he's doing, and it's just a matter of getting those cost reductions that he's been talking about. So we have some, I think in general, a lot of really good things going on for the quarter. In the medium term, I also think there's a lot of good things, particularly if we can get that Model Y going. I think it answers all the questions about issues, because that's a lot of Chinese buyers that'll be in the market buying, and that could make up for issues in Europe as well as in the United States in terms of COVID slowdown demand that might be occurring. So we look forward to how this all plays out, and obviously we'll update you on what we see, what we think is going to occur, and why. Any rate, we also very much look forward to your comments. Please remember to like and subscribe. We now go to our health tips section. As we've discussed in the future, probably our top 5 being, don't forget 25 leg lifts per day per leg. This will allow you to strengthen your quad muscles, reducing the chance of knee issues. The second is try not to go to bed within 4 hours of eating, minimum 2 hours, because that gives you an opportunity to digest all the food eaten, so that the acid doesn't roll into your upper respiratory and cause either acid indigestion or even in some cases cancer. We also want to encourage you to consider 5-2 or some other fast-related diet, because this could really be helpful in sort of general health that you're experiencing. 4 would be one of our newest that I love a lot is eating smaller meals. Those smaller meals facilitating prior to lovemaking, because it facilitates blood flow to other extremities rather than just your stomach post a large meal, and therefore slowing down blood flow to other areas of the body. And then, finally, I would say just a reminder on no more than once a week for fried foods. I think that, basically it reduces the chance of type 2 diabetes and other health challenges associated with all that fried food activity. any rate, we want to thank you for taking time out to join us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Best of luck as we head into earnings. Tschüss German, au revoir French, lehitro, Hebrew, Khoda Hafez Farsi, Assalamu alaikum, Muslim, Namaste, Hindu, Zdravstvuyte, hello in Russian, Ni hao ma, hello in Chinese, and hey do, Swedish, do widzenia, Polish. And in Jamaica we say enough respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. And we look forward to your comments, especially ones that are supportive of everybody learning rather than mean-spirited ones.